What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, last night, the Los Angeles Lakers, in their second game of their six-game road trip, took a L, as I thought they would, against the Miami Heat. And for the most part, most of the game, it was a blowout. But, a combination of the officiating helped to get LA back into the game. But some of it was Russell Westbrook's play. But that's not going to be reported because the narrative is that he's the problem. So you can't report any games where he's actually playing well because that goes against that narrative that you see in the mainstream media, and it's been led by Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe has been Russell Westbrook's most vocal critic this season, and of course he's going to do that because he's the ultimate LeBron James dick lick. You know, I'm starting to suspect he has homoerotic feelings for LeBron James. But anyway, let me make this clear too. I am not saying that Russell Westbrook is some innocent victim and that it's some conspiracy. No, no, no. Russell Westbrook has had a lot of bad fucking games this year. A lot of inexplicably just terrible performances. Much more so than what's normal for him. So a lot of the criticism that's aimed at him is just. He has been part of the problem, no doubt about it. But he's not the primary problem, in my opinion. He's not. The issue with this team is that you got a lot of guys who are playing, in my opinion, on this team who aren't good fits. Technically speaking, with a few exceptions, this is not a good three-point shooting team. Don't get me wrong, they will have nights when they make them, but they're not a consistently great three-point shooting team. Russell Westbrook is not a good fit, obviously, in that aspect. He never was a great defender, even though I thought he had the physical gifts to be one, but he never was a great defender. He's not a great shooter. Um, and at the end of the day, he's had a hell of a time adjusting to playing on this team. But part of that, I think, lies in the fault that he's always had these pushover coaches that, quote, let Russ be Russ, and never had actually anybody actually coach him. I think Russell Westbrook would have been greatly benefited playing under a Phil Jackson or a Pat Riley or a Red Holtzman or a Red Auerbach or somebody of that stature. Uh, Huey Brown, Dr. Jack Ramsey. I think he would have greatly benefited playing under a great coach who had the personality and the authoritative uh, presence so that Russ would listen to him. Because I'm looking at him over these last few games and I'm noticing how he's done a much better job protecting the basketball. Remember, at his worst this year, Russ was averaging almost 6 turnovers a game. 6. He's got his turnovers per game now down to 4.1, which is still a bit high. It is. But he's gotten it down now to the lowest per game average he's had in several years. And I'll get to that in a moment. Shannon Sharpe loves to just point out Russell Westbrook every time he's talking about the Lakers when they lose. When there's someone to blame, Shannon Sharpe puts up Russell Westbrook. But he always wants to shine to be on LeBron James, right? Now, LeBron James had 33 points last night, right? I think 33 points because he's going to get his 30 points. Shot 12 or 22 from the floor. But in that 12 or 22 was 1 of 8 shooting from outside. And he missed 2 out of 8 free throws, which isn't terrible, but that goal that he had of shooting 80%, not going to happen. And if you look at his plus minus in the last few nights, since he's had this streak of 25 consecutive, 25 points or more, I think it's now 17 straight games where he's had at least 25 points, right? If you look at his plus minus in most of these games, he's in the lower end of his team, which to me indicates that these points he's putting up are not nearly as impactful as his fans or as the mainstream media want you to believe. But I want to focus on Russell Westbrook for a second because people keep talking about how he's having this unbelievably horrible season. But then when you look at his numbers, last year with the Washington Wizards, he shot 43.9% from the floor, right? This year, Russell Westbrook is shooting 43.7% from the floor. Last year with the Wizards, he shot 31.5% from beyond the arc. This year, he's shooting 29.6%. A little bit lower, but then again, 2 years ago, he shot 25.8%. So he can get worse than that. That was the worst year of his career shooting from beyond the arc. Last year, he was 65.6% from the free throw line. This year, he's actually got a little bit better, 67.3%. I think what screwed up Russell Westbrook was that rule that they brought in a couple of years ago where they sped up the free throw routine. Russ used to have this thing where he would, I think he would walk to the backcourt, not back, walk to like not the backcourt, but he would walk to the top of the key and then come back or something like that. I remember the free throw routine where he would walk, but I think between attempts he would walk to the top of the key and then come back around. Now I know it sounds like it shouldn't bother him, but ever since he's not been allowed to do that, his free throws have been off. I don't know. That's why I always say there's always a mental part of this game that people don't focus on enough. Not to make excuses, but I've noticed that since the game has been sped up and he can no longer do that, he's had issues with shooting free throws. Turnovers. Last year, Russell Westbrook averaged 4.8 turnovers per game. This year, he's averaging 4.1 turnovers per game, which is the fewest turnovers that he has averaged since 2013-14 season. Now his scoring is down, 18.6 points per game, but his shot attempts are down too. He's only shooting 16 times a game, which is the lowest that he has attempted since his second year in the league. So of course his scoring is going to be down if he's shooting the ball less. His rebounding, his assists are down, but that's pretty much attributed to the fact that he's not playing on a team where the centers are clearing out for him to get the rebound all the time. He doesn't have the ball in his hands quite as much as he did before. So it makes sense that his rebounds and assists would be down. But the point of this video is this. Is he having the greatest season of his career? No. Is he having the worst season of his career? Possibly, but not to the extent that I think that many in the mainstream are pushing. He's not. Look, if a lot of these people are really against turnovers like that, like sloppy, terrible turnovers, why aren't they as? This is how you know it's bullshit. This is how you know it's the media, because sometimes if you attribute a person to something, people will look for it. Turnovers has become synonymous with Russell Westbrook. Yes, he has terrible turnovers, but so does James Harden. James Harden last night had another terrible game, which contributed greatly to the loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think he shot 4 for 13. I think 0 for 4 from 3. And he had 6 turnovers. Matter of fact, in the last 5 games, he's averaging 5.4 turnovers. And he's leading the NBA in turnovers per game at nearly 4.9 turnovers per game. But does anybody give a fuck? No. But why? Because James Harden and that turnovers narrative is non-existent. What he gets attributed to is the potential of being a great scorer. That's all people look for with him is whether he's going to score points or whether he's going to get to the foul line. But people don't pay attention to the fact that he's a turnover machine as well. So I just did this video just to put out there that, in my opinion, Russ is having some individually bad games, no doubt about it. But overall, I don't really see this outlier where this season is just completely just in the shits for Russ. And it does appear that he's playing better. Now, the shooting, that's gonna be sporadic. He's not a great shooter. But the ball protection does seem to be getting better as the season goes on. But is he going to get credit for that? No. People are going to pick on the games when he turns the ball over 6, 7, 8, 9 times. But that's all I got to say about it. Shannon Sharpe is a piece of shit. You know, he likes to get on his show and criticize and critique everybody. He called, didn't he call Kevin Durant a bitch? Right? But when people go on his Twitter and critique him or challenge him, he gets mad. He blocked Kevin Durant. Uh, he got in his feelings when Eddie Johnson challenged him about the quality of the show. That's what he is, man. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.